Look, if you'd like to have greater insights on our ever changing world so that you can better plan and make decisions for your business, you are in the right place. Today's topic happens to be global transformations, and you're about to hear from Mama Callie Sichen, and she's going to be speaking about a prophetic message that she was able to decipher with her husband. Check this out. You're going to love this program. See ya. Welcome to another edition of Business in Motion, a program that focuses on business and entrepreneurship from an Afro-centered perspective, right here on WMEG Radio, Baltimore, Maryland, the #1 station in the nation, with the dissemination of valuable information with no hesitation or reservation, but a dedication and obligation to the elevation of your present situation. I'm your host, RGL Biz Coach, and today you're in for a treat. We are going to be bringing on Mama Callie Sichen, and she is going to be discussing a prophecy, a prophetic message that was on a seawall in San Francisco that she and her husband happened to discover while doing an early morning walk, getting their exercise on. You got to stick around for this one. Don't forget, subscribe to this channel. Also, call up your friends, your family, your foes, and let them know it is on today. Check this out.
The all-new WMEG Radio.
And welcome back to another segment here of Business in Motion, a program that focuses on business and entrepreneurship from an Afro-centered perspective. I'm your host, RGL Biz Coach, and I'll tell you in for a treat right now because I actually have her on the line. But I just want to tell you a little bit. First of all, again, that song you just heard was Odyssey, Don't Tell Me, Tell Her It's Over. Was a big hit back in the day. I loved it to death. Who we have right now, again, as I mentioned, I refer to as Mama Callie Sichen. And let me tell you, I came across her, bought a book, and she does a number of things. I don't want to take her spill, but anyway, bought herbs and everything from her, and she told me about her book, and I bought the book and was just blown away. And I've seen so many of her interviews on YouTube. I'm constantly on YouTube checking out things, good information that I can bring here and make available to you. And I finally was able to get hold of her and to bring her on to the show. So with no further ado, are you there, Mama Callie?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I am.
it is a pleasure. It's just a pleasure. It is a pleasure hearing your voice. I've told so many people about it. I said, do not miss this show today. I'm bringing Mama Callie Sichen on, and I just want you to be comfortable. And, I will ask you a few questions, but you can feel free and just speak the way that you would like to speak. You're on WMEG Radio here in Baltimore, and we're all about freedom of speech, okay? I want you to understand and to know that. All right? So,
Okay.
first of all, why don't you just give...
I thank you so very much. Perhaps there isn't as much censorship on radio as there is in social media right now. Very popular people are very hard to find on social media now because of the extent of taking away that, what is it, the First Amendment?
Yes.
Yes, freedom of speech? Yeah. Yes. I mean, it has really been seriously censored in social media in the past year or so. Yes, but my brother, I do thank you so very much for inviting me to come. I'm hoping that you are hearing me well.
I hear you very well.
Okay, because you seem to be sort of like in the background, and I don't know why.
That's just the way it is.
I hear you like that. Maybe. Well, it's okay. If you can hear me, then that's fine.
Believe me, I hear you loud and clear.
So first of all, let me kind of introduce myself.
Very good.
It's very difficult being, on this planet for almost 80 years And in those 80 years, having traveled so much abroad and done so many things and just had so many rich experiences that it's very difficult sometimes to just narrow it down and just talk about one thing or two things, because they're all interrelated in my life. First of all, I was born in the South. I was born in a small town in southeastern America, in a small village that was really very much alive with commerce and, education, commerce, entertainment, everything, by the indigenous people who were first called Indians here in America. In other words, the indigenous original people. And this was the town that many have called the first Black Wall Street, because we had everything. When I grew up, I would say probably about 90% of our income was shared within the community. We had our own stores, we had our own hospital, we had our own schools from grade school, kindergarten, actually, all the way through college, and within walking distance of my house. And, we had, at one time, it was the largest insurance company in so-called black insurance company in America. I was recently looking for it and had a very hard time showing how we deserted our own people. Right. But we had banks. We had our own banks. We had our own savings and loan. And my mother, I don't know how she ever did it, but she saved money. I remember going into those banks with her. She banked at the savings and loan and in the regular bank. And, we had our hotels, we had our movie theaters, and I just remember walking to all of these as a child with my sisters and my nephew, who was also brought up with me. But I was the 13th child, and so wow. I had brothers and sisters who were much older than I, and then I had, children my age. So where do you want me to begin?
Well, first of all, if you don't mind saying, what city, when you were saying, well, I know North Carolina Mutual Insurance, and I'm assuming when you were speaking about the largest black company that you were referring to that company. For years, when I was in college, that was one thing that I learned. The largest, it's like, okay, you guys, because I went to school at North Carolina A&T State University, and in my business class, they taught us that, look, we have the largest black corporation that's in America, and it was North Carolina, I think, North Carolina Mutual Insurance. Is that what you were referring to?
Right. That's the one I'm talking about. It was in Durham, exactly. North Carolina.
Yes.
And actually, for a long time, it was the tallest building in Durham.
Absolutely.
And actually, it may still be. I don't know, but it's kind of isolated. Mm-hmm. It was built somewhat away from the downtown area. Uh-huh. I'm sure there was a whole lot of palaver about that, you know what I mean? When they were putting that tall building up, and here they are, so-called Negroes, right. But nevertheless, Durham, and it was a good place, mm-hmm. I really enjoyed growing up there and just being in a very close-knit community, you know?
Yes.
It was really great. Even our fresh vegetables and things, of course, everybody has their own vegetable garden in the backyard, mm-hmm. but things that we didn't have, like, milk and eggs. Some people had chickens. We didn't. But there was a farmer who came in to town every weekend, every Saturday, and we bought fresh milk,
Yes.
and butter. Well, no, my mother always made her own butter. So this was real milk with the butter in it. And my mother always enjoyed whipping the butter and making her own butter, And so this is the way I grew up.
All right.
And so that is the way, actually, I cooked for 30 years because I couldn't stand people's food. I was so used to real food, going up on real food.
Yes.
And then they put all this other stuff out here, so I cooked and cooked, for my children and for my husband. I cooked and cooked and cooked. Now I'm tired of cooking. So I do cook though, because I still want to eat my own food. And of course, sometimes I'll make a little bit more so that I can eat it later, have another meal on, so forth. Yeah, but I have 2 children, 7 grandchildren. And they're all, now I think 2 finished college, 2 are in college at Emory, and one just started middle school, and another one is she just started high school.
Okay.
And then the other one is in middle school, just started middle school. But I published my very first book when I was in college.
Wow. Okay.
And I had those 2 children at that time, and I didn't have a husband at that time. But the name of the book was called "The Secret of Cycles."
Okay.
College life cycles calendar, a calendar spelled with a K.
Okay.
Well, women have not only that, moon cycle that everybody is familiar with, but, we all have circadian rhythms. We have biological rhythms, and then women have another fertility cycle that I learned about way back then. When was that? 1982, I believe it was. When I wrote that book, because I had just read a book. What was the name of that book? It was about Russian people's investigations into the paranormal.
Okay.
I always, looked at mysterious things, and as an astrologer, an astronomer and so forth. These are things that are just very, very, curious to me. And I had read this book on Russian paranormal research, and I found out about the women's second fertility cycle. So I wrote a book about it. But at any rate, I have engaged in commerce. Of course, my husband and I, we were in business in San Francisco for about 20 years. We had a plant nursery where we had some of the most beautiful and exotic plants. Everybody knew that if they wanted a real different kind of a plant, that they needed to come to Anthony's Landscaping Nursery.
Gotcha.
And of course, he was a botanist and a horticulturist, and so he knew plants. He actually had was at the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew in England. And he was a very, very astute and very studious botanist. In fact, he loved plants so much that I always thought of him just like George Washington Carver.
Yes.
And I think that, oh, and by the way, he was born about 3 or 4 months after George Washington Carver passed away.
Okay.
And I always thought that he picked up his spirit because of his love for plants and his total devotion to learning about them. So he was a very studious man, and that worked well for me because I was also very studious. And so, you know, we would sit and read.
Right.
And when we ran across something interesting, we would share it. Mm-hmm. And so that was some way that we both learned so much. You know, now when we lived in San Francisco, once something just very amazing happened.
Yes, and that. Yeah, go ahead. I wanted you.
I think that's what you wanted to talk about.
Absolutely, that is one of the key things. I believe it or not, because I live on the DC side, and you know I take the Beltway and come up to Baltimore, and I was listening to your husband to the lecture where he was explaining, where he hadn't gotten into the part about the wall yet, but he had just finished explaining about his love for botany and how they invited him over to Oxford University, and he wasn't formally educated, but yet he's hobnobbing and dealing with them and teaching those people. But yes, absolutely, please enlighten the audience about your experience on that seawall with this prophecy. Go ahead.
Yes.
And tell us about
I mean, it is just so amazing now that we are seeing this prophecy unfold right in front of us.
Absolutely.
You know, right now.
Yes.
And but it was in San Francisco. We lived about maybe 4 blocks away from the ocean. Mm-hmm. You know, and every morning we would go out and walk on the beach. And there was this wall that kind of, I always called it the break wave wall, because if the tide came in so far, you know, the wall would break the waves and keep it from coming into the city of San Francisco, because the city was right there.
Right. It
was like almost at the ocean. And so we walked every morning before work, and one morning we looked up at the wall, and there were these huge symbols. And me, you know, being very astute in reading symbols, you know, I said, well, they look like astrological signs. Let's go up there and see what this is. And so when we went to the wall, what we usually walked at beside the water, and usually that was a distance from the wall. And so, you know, we went up to the wall, and not only were there these huge symbols there, but there were little messages in between, even the symbols. Now, this wall was about maybe a little more than a mile long, because we walked the whole distance every day to get our exercise in. Maybe it was 2 miles long. I can't remember. But the whole wall was filled with what most people would call graffiti. But we realized that there were some messages in that.
Okay.
And so, you know me, I'm going to go and start taking pictures. And some of the things that were just so amazing, you know, it was almost unbelievable, and I couldn't wait to see if indeed what I saw came out in the camera. And it did. And so I said, well, it's there. It's not our imagination. We are not entering into another dimension when we go out there into on the beach, which, of course, maybe we did enter into another dimension, because as things unfolded from 1995 to 1998, when we moved away from moved away from San Francisco. I mean, it was just unbelievable, the messages that came through. And shortly after we began to record what was going on at the beach, I just asked, well, who's doing this? Who's writing on this wall? What are these messages? What is this all about? And then the next day Ptah. Are you aware of the Egyptian god Ptah?
Yes, I am. I'm very familiar with Ptah.
Ptah.
Yes.
Ptah.
Yes.
The Egyptian god Ptah. And I said, well, why would Ptah come all the way out here in San Francisco, the Egyptian god, to start writing graffiti on the wall telling stories? And so I said, no, it can't be Ptah. And then the next day, it was written again in great big blue letters, so you could not avoid it, real high on the wall. And by the wall, by the way, the wall was from 10 feet to 25 feet, maybe 30 feet in some places. It depended. It depended. But anyway, so Ptah, and I have the picture of both of the writings. It was first in small, thin letters, and then it was written in thick blue letters where Ptah signed this graffiti. You see?
Yes.
And so I had to accept that. That the Egyptian god has shown up here in San Francisco to give us a message.
Wow.
And so yes, so it's kind of hard without the visuals, and that was one of the reasons why we moved all over this country. Mm-hmm. With the Whole Life Expo, we were very happy to move with them because they paid your fare and your hotel. But every time that every city that we went to, we also made sure that we presented the cosmic prophecies to our community.
Right.
And so whenever, I've been on another platform, there are always people who said, oh, yeah, I saw that back in the 90s. I saw it. Remember I told you that it was at Brother Bay's place?
Yes.
Yeah, and we talked about Kathy Hughes and everything.
Yep.
And that first place she had over there, right across from Brother Bay's health food store.
Yeah, right on 8th Street.
Yeah.
8th Street in D.C.
Yeah, that's in D.C. Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-huh. And so we were there several times, but we were in Baltimore once, and in New York several times, and all over Texas, Massachusetts. We were actually up there in Massachusetts once, in Boston, or
wow, okay,
that's more some college campus outside of Boston. I'm not sure. I can't even remember what the name of it was. But we did share it. And the thing about it is that there was one particular, photograph of the graffiti on the wall, which when 9/11 happened,
yes,
we got so many calls because that was on the wall.
And again, what year was this that you were looking? Okay, we know 2001 was 9/11. What year?
Right.
Tell the listeners what year it was that you all discovered this prophecy on the wall.
1995 through 1998 is when we actually took the pictures.
Okay.
And so what was that, 5 or 10? Wait a minute.
You're talking from 3 to 5 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
From 95, 6 years before that really happened, But the people who had seen the cosmic prophecies all over the country, they called us and said, you know what, that was on the wall.
That's amazing.
And so that's just one of the things
Absolutely.
that I talk about. But there's something that maybe I can talk about it here. But
Yes.
I don't want to get you banned from radio.
Don't worry
But
about it. We're cool.
is
We're
one,
good.
There is one graffiti or painting on the wall that I looked at and never saw or never recognized something that just happened in 2019.
And what was that?
The jab.
The gab?
It was on the wall.
Could you explain the
And-
gab? I'm unfamiliar with that.
You're not familiar with the jab?
How do you?
Well,
how do
you can't really say the word
Oh, okay.
of the injection.
Oh, now I got you. I don't know what's on my mind. I'm sitting. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The
Everybody
jab.
calls it the
Yeah,
jab.
the jab.
because
I got
it
you.
gets censored for calling it by its name.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you. I thought you were saying the
That was on the
gaff.
wall.
No, but the jab. I'm with you 100%.
And I, my goodness, I could not believe it when one day I was looking at one of the, and I said, what? Now, that was on a wall in 1995 to 1998. Okay?
And I've seen it. I've seen that.
It just happened in 20recognized 1990. Say what now?
And I have seen that in the pic. Just looking at one of the lectures that you had done, that was, and I saw it. I think there was it was some doctor, a female, a doctor was interviewing you, and you were showing it. But I've seen that. I've seen the needle on the wall. I mean, so amazing. That's just mind blowing to me. But yeah, go ahead and carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
And you
seen
know
that
okay. It was also, there was also information about the creation of the humanoid here.
Yes.
You know, we, the melanated people of the earth, and especially from Africa and the New World, because we are the copper colored people who were found here when the Europeans first arrived over here, and we were not brought in slave ships. This is our country. This is our nation. This is our indigenous country,
Right.
Turtle Island. And so we are the ones who have the oldest blood on this planet.
That's right.
And we are not mixed with other species, Earth species. Now, remember I mentioned that it was Ptah,
Yes.
the Egyptian god, but he was known as the one who created the human.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, his name was also in Sumerian text.
Mm-hmm.
From Sumer,
Mm-hmm.
his name was Enki.
Inky. Absolutely.
Enki. And I had never heard of any of this back when we first started taking pictures on the wall.
Right.
Then my dear friend who just passed away, you may know him. Everybody says, well, I don't know him. Yeah, you've seen his videos, and I know you've seen his videos if you've studied any African
Mm-hmm.
or American history.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Transatlantic Productions.
Okay.
TAP videos. And if you've seen Dr. Clark or Dr. Ben or Dr. Van Sertima or Dr.
Yes.
Wesley, any of them, it was he who was behind the camera.
Okay.
And actually, he has a 4-hour video with me talking about these changes actually on that. But anyway, it was Enki or Ptah, who created the human being. Well, there's a whole, maybe about 100 feet of images on the wall about the creation. They call it the creation of the Lulu. At first, when we saw it, I didn't know what a Lulu was, but there it was in that book. And my friend who just passed away, Minister Brown, Clemson Brown, he is the one who gave us the book. We were at his house on something else, and he said, "Hey, look, here's the book." Well, this is when we were first starting to actually decode what was on that wall. And lo and behold, in that book written by Zachariah Sichen, they called the creation the Lulu, and that was on the wall.
Yep.